Welcome back to this bonus edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I am 12 Kyle. Check this out. Life. We're living life every day, right? And I'm one who always kind of makes um, the idea of life and I how I live my life and how I see others live their life. I always make certain parallels. And some years ago, I wrote on my blog. For those of you who don't know, I have a blog, but I rarely write in it. But years ago, I wrote this post about how um, the game of football is a lot like the game of life, right? And I know what you're thinking, like, how is football like life? Well, I'm about to tell you. Just vibe with me on this one, okay? You learn new things every day, and growth is a part of your process. I mean, I would hope that we're growing each day. Um, but here's how I tie it all in together. As many of you know, or maybe you don't know, like I have a deep love, passion, and appreciation for the game of football. Um, I started playing organized football at the age of 8. And I played all the way from 8 years old, all the way through middle school, through high school, through college. So for me to say that I took some things away from football would be a huge understatement. Of course I have. I took a lot of things away from the game of football. But I'm about to tell you how it correlates with life. There's a lot that I learned from football that can be applied to everyday life. For example, in football, you have to have a game plan, right? You got to have a game plan. Your game plan is your strategy for how you will play and how you will execute. And ultimately, if you execute your game plan, hopefully, prayerfully, you will win. It correlates in life because in life, having a game plan is essential. If you don't have plans, if you don't have goals, if you don't set forth a game plan, you will find yourself wandering aimlessly through life without having a plan or a goal. And the days will pass by, and the months will pass. The weeks will pass by, the months will pass by, and ultimately the years will pass by. So you need a game plan. If you're in high school and you're listening to this podcast, you need a game plan for what you plan to do for the next years after high school. Do you plan to go to college? Do you plan to get a job? Do you plan to go into the service? Whatever it is you plan to do. Do you plan to travel the world? I don't know. But I'm just using that as an example. But you got to have a game plan. In the game of football, the game consists of 4 quarters. Now, football is a grueling sport. Not only will those 4 quarters test your patience, but obviously it will test your endurance because, again, it is a grueling sport. It is a sport that will take damn near everything out of you upon its completion. So it's important that, you do what it is that you're supposed to do, executing your game plan and everything to sustain yourself through those 4 quarters. The correlation is in life, there are many games that you will play within the game, the bigger game of life. Because see, life is meant to be played in different parts, different games. And if you are going through this world, obviously your objective in life is to win more than you lose. For example, you want to win with your personal relationships, but the reality is that you're going to lose sometimes with your heart. You're going to break, your heart's going to get broken from time to time. Is anybody here listening never had their heart broken? Even I. have had my heart broken a time or two. Um, but you have to endure the trials and tribulations that come your way. You can't quit. You won't quit. You just gotta do it. You gotta figure it out. And in the quarters of life, the games within the games, you have to try to get more wins than losses. Because trust me, you're going to win. And if you live a long time, more often than not, you're going to win more than you lose. So there's games within games. There's games within your career. There's games within your relationships. There's games within how you go about your day-to-day life. Sometimes there could be a game with your struggles with sobriety or whatever the case may be. But you got to win. Or at least you got to try your best to get more wins than you have losses. So there's 4 quarters. In football, halftime is the midpoint of the game. At halftime, it's the time where you stop, you collect your thoughts, you kind of take a deep breath, you review your game plan and figure out, okay, well, hey, where do I need to make adjustments? Okay, this right here is happening over here. I need to try to figure this out. We're getting pressure from over here. This guy's coming across here and we can't block him. That's football. In life, you must constantly make adjustments. I am living proof of that. I am currently in an adjustment right now. And it's an adjustment that I didn't necessarily anticipate, but I think I'm adjusting and I'm handling it pretty well. But you got to be able to be loose. You got to be able to not necessarily be stuck on what it is that you're doing. Because in life, you got to constantly make adjustments. And one of the things about life is you have to deal with the unexpected. I mean, yeah, it's great to have plans and you plan for things, but life is constantly and consistently changing. So we as people, if you're going to get through life, you gotta keep making adjustments for your strategies, for your game plan on how you are going to navigate throughout life. Conversely, in football, you have injuries. If you play the game long enough, you're going to get injured. I think the best way that I can describe the physical toll on a body for someone who's never played football before is that it's almost like being in a car crash every 30 seconds. Like you are constantly just running into somebody and somebody's constantly running into you. So injuries are part of the game. You're going to get injured, right? And so in football, you just kind of realize like, hey, that's just kind of par for the course. Like it happens, right? Conversely, in life, while you may not physically be injured, your feelings will be bruised and battered, especially at the hands of the people that love you the most or the people that you love the most. You know, in football, you know, people talk about being injured. Like they say, hey, what's wrong? Hey, oh, well, I broke my arm. But in football, you don't complain about injuries. If someone asks you if you're hurt, you tell them you're hurt. You tell them what's hurting or whatever like that, and you rehab or whatever the case may be. But you don't complain about it. You deal with it and you move on. You can't really dwell on it too much. And it's kind of the same way in life. You don't want to dwell on it too much. You want to at least acknowledge the fact that the injury is there, that you've been hurt. But I don't know that you should necessarily deal with it a lot or too much, because no matter how much you pour your heart out saying that, you know, Suzanne broke your heart, nobody's going to feel sorry for you. And they will let me take that back. They probably will feel sorry for you for a little while, but after that, you got to get over it. I don't care if it's Suzanne, your girlfriend, or Suzanne, your wife, or Billy Bob, your husband, or Raheem, your husband. We all get injured. And The story ultimately is not about how you got injured, but how you overcame that injury. And most importantly, how you moved on from that injury. Another way that football measures, against the game of life. In football, what do you have? You look up in the stands, what do you have? You have fans, right? In a game of football, fans enter the stadium to watch you play. They will sit, no matter whether or not it's 100 degrees or 4 below. They will sit there and they are there to cheer or boo at what they're seeing. Hopefully they're there to cheer for you, right? Conversely, in life, we all have fans. No matter who you are, no matter what you do, no matter where you go, you have fans. There are people who are out there, regardless of whether or not you know it or not, they're rooting for you to succeed. They want to see your success just like you do. And that's important to them. You know why? Because you're important to them. Lastly, hard work. In the game of football, the game will teach you discipline. It will teach you how to push yourself. I wish I had time to talk about how much I pushed myself way more than I thought I'd ever would on a football field. And with football, you push yourself so much you push yourself to the point where you go beyond places where you thought you could ever go, both physically and mentally. And that's a win for you. And that's hard work. Conversely, in life, hard work pays off. Let me say that again. Hard work pays off. There was a quote that I saw when I was a kid growing up. The quote was from legendary basketball coach John Chaney from Temple University. He said, "Suffering plus sacrifice equals success." And that always stuck with me. Now, success doesn't necessarily mean that you got to have $1 million house. Doesn't mean that you make $30,000 a year. Anything can be successful. But to be successful, it doesn't mean that you have to be a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. It just means that you need to that you do what you're supposed to do, and you get satisfaction from it. So if you become, a sanitation worker, cool. If you become a CEO at AT&T, cool. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you get something and some level of satisfaction from what it is that you're doing. Hard work pays off. Suffering plus sacrifice equals success. Now, the same works for football. Now, naturally, you're not going to have sometimes you can play as hard as you can and do your best, and everything is still, look up at the scoreboard and, you and your team about to take that L. It happens. But in life, when you control everything, you are more responsible, more in control of that level of success and that hard work that you put in. Because hard work does pay off. So in essence, what I'm saying is football is a lot like the game of life. Everything that I just said relates. Having a game plan, playing 4 quarters, having a halftime, being able to adjust, being injured and hurt, being celebrated by fans, and your hard work. So in essence, football is just like the game of life. Now, who said that you couldn't learn something from a little simple game called football? Because you just did. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for me. Thank you for checking out this bonus edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast. The podcast drops weekly, every Thursday at midnight on all streaming platforms. Again, that's going to do it for me. I'm your boy 12 Kyle. I'll catch you guys next time. 5,000.